يا إخوتي هيا نمضي سويا، 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 يا إخوتي هيا نمضي سويا سويا سويا، يا إخوتي هيا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad Amin, and these are my stories. In my life, I spent 8 years in federal prison, and 2.5 of those years I spent at FMC Butner, or what we call Federal Medical Center Butner, which is located in Butner, North Carolina, on the Butner prison complex. On this complex, they have two mediums, one low and one camp, and then they have the hospital or the Federal Medical Center. And this Federal Medical Center specializes in cancer treatment. And there's a lot of benefits of the inmates that can go there. You know, they've actually cured a lot of people, but as well, a lot of people have died, and that's why this title is the Prison of Death. You know, within this 2.5 years that I spent there, I probably seen around 300 people die. And I have firsthand experience. I actually was given the opportunity, a lot of us were, to work around these sick inmates. Inmates with cancer, inmates that are confined to chairs, all type of different disabilities or illnesses or problems. This prison has so many different inmates with so many different things going on, man. But nonetheless, you know, I'm making this video to hopefully shed some light on the sad predicament that a lot of men are finding themselves in prison. You know, at this prison, you know, a lot of them are not getting the chance to come home. A lot of them are spending their last days there, you know, and it's just a sad predicament, man. You know, we have ways to file to get released from prison, but a lot of men are getting turned down, you know, and to be able to say that I saw around 300 people die, you know, and that prison has been open for years. So there's people that died before I was there. There's people that have died even after I have left. And I've been gone for about 3 years. You know, that was the prison that I left from. A lot of us were given the chance to help a lot of these sick men. You know, one thing that I found in prison and at this particular prison is that even though that we're in prison, you know, you'll find a lot of good men in prison, man. A lot of good men willing to make themselves uncomfortable just to help the next man. You know, this program that we're a part of, we were actually trained by nurses and taught how to help people with disabilities, and how to help the nurses help them when they have to take care of them and things like that. You know, so I just want people to know that there's a lot of candles in that darkness, man. There's a lot of light in that darkness, man. Bringing light to that place, man, because it's a sad place sometimes, man, or all the time. Nonetheless, there's nothing good about prison except if you better yourself. And I also want to shed light on my experiences. I personally developed so many relationships at this medical center, man, with guys who weren't sick, you know, that I got to see, you know, how much they were willing to do to help others, man. You know, and I also got to build a lot of relationships with a lot of those sick men, you know, and I seen a lot of them get better and go home, or just go home. And I also seen a lot of people in there die. I built a lot of relationships with these men, from helping them and being around them and working around them every day. You know, I had actually a good reputation as a worker there, helping these inmates, you know, these patients, these incarcerated patients. You know, I used to do a lot for them, man. And I got to see, unfortunately, I got to see a lot of my friends die. You know, both Muslims and non-Muslims, man. And I think it's something that still traumatizes me till this day. You know, actually, and I've been out of prison for about 3 years. It's like it still weighs on me. It's like it made me numb somehow. It did something to my soul, I believe. I believe it did something to my heart. I can't explain it. It's almost as if like it took away certain emotions from me. It made me dry. It made me numb. I seen the different stages of cancer, where it started at like stage 1 or stage 2, and I seen it break men down. I seen them die in front of my eyes, like over a span of days and months, weeks and months, and then to where they just can't bear it no more, man. And I want whoever's watching this to hear this, to feel this, like it can be very traumatizing, man. To see, you know, to see a person go through these stages and then die. And when I think about these things, I think about nurses and the people in the medical field, man. Shout out to them, man, that they can deal with these people and do these jobs for years. And I know this is their profession and they get paid to do it. But for me, just personally, man, I can only imagine, like, it traumatized me, man. I can only imagine it traumatizes them. It does something to them, unless they really don't care. But this prison also has been known to house some famous prisoners. One of them in particular was Bernie Madoff. Yeah, I was actually there with him. I actually got to work around him. I never really dealt with him, because I think when I was there, I think he was paying certain people to specifically deal with him. Because believe it or not, the program that we were a part of, we called it it was called the Inmate Companion Program, the ICP program. We used to help them with their daily lives in this program. This is what we did. We worked around them every day, like any other job in prison. We went to their locations, their floors, or where they lived at, and there would be about, let's say the 5th floor is where I worked a lot, and the 5th floor is where people had all types of different problems, whether it was cancer, whether it was, stomach problems or disabilities, handicapped. Some guys were confined to their bed with feeding tubes, all type of stuff, man. But yeah, nonetheless, I worked around Bernie, and Bernie, he was a cool guy, man. He was, at least from my perspective, he was a quiet guy. More serious. I also think it's important for people to know too that I was there when he died as well. And just brushing over it, I didn't get to see it, but I heard from people that lived around him that leading up to his death, 2 nights before, they heard him, screaming. They heard him making loud shouts of pain. I think this reflects on the nurses, because they said that none of the nurses, and I'm going to talk about this later in this video as well, but they said like the nurses didn't really tend to him, when he was in this process, but yeah, so also another prisoner, I didn't get to actually be around him, but the prison I was at, the medical center, was infamous for having housed him, and this is the blind Sheikh, Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him. I heard a lot of good things about him, and this is from non-Muslims. The nurses that worked around him, there was a lot of female nurses that worked around him. He actually was located when he was there in an advanced care unit. And this advanced care unit was a lockdown unit. Like, you had to have like certain, clearance to go work in there, for the nurses and the inmates. Because in this program, we could work there too. But from what I heard from the nurses that worked with him, they said that he was more conservative, so they had like a high respect for him. He wasn't like flirtatious with the women. Of course, he was an older man, was very respectful, but of course they were scared of him because of what they knew of him or what was said about him, but nonetheless, this is a blind man. He was like 70, 80 when he was there, he wasn't capable of much. But one thing for sure, that prison was scared when he died. When he died in their custody, they locked the whole facility down, and they had to put guards out front of the facility. It's not easy to make it into that building. There's too many doors, too many things that gotta be opened, etc., etc. But they still locked the whole facility down because they were hearing rumors and getting threats that his supporters were gonna come break his body out. So I thought that was pretty funny. But may Allah have mercy upon him. Also, another person that was there was his co-defendant, and the strange part is that the blind sheikh died before I got there, but his co-defendant was apparently there when I was there. And he, I always, when I hear Arab names or when I see Arab names, like they stick out in my mind, because I know a little bit about the Arabic language. I'm not fluent, but being a Muslim, we read a lot of things with Arabic words. So I'm always on the lookout for stuff like that. I was always curious to know if there was a new Muslim coming or a brother there or anything like that. So, but apparently he was there when I was there, and I didn't even know he was there. The only way I actually found out was through news articles, that said he died. I think it was like right after I left, cause I left in April 21, and it says he died in May 2021. But I think where they had him at, they have another place on the second floor, like the same floor that the blind sheikh was on. They have another place that's for medical treatment, but it's like a secretive SHU. Like you have the SHU in prison is the special housing unit, the place that you go when you get in trouble. But his special housing unit was like a secretive unit. Like you wouldn't even know it's a housing unit on the second floor. When you go to this location where it's at, it's down a long hallway, and then there's a glass door, and you can't even walk down this hallway without getting stopped. Like there's a guard in the booth, but they have like some microphones and speakers, and they'll tell you to stop. Like you can't even go down there unless you're just bringing the food, like you're a kitchen worker and you got their cart and you're transporting the food. That's the only way you'll ever get close down there. Other than that, you get stopped. So I actually think this is where he was, because at this prison they had a mental health wing as well, but I don't think he was down there. Like they're pretty much open down there, so I would have probably heard something, but yeah, I think he was down there. Nonetheless, he was another person that was infamous that was there, and like I said, he died I think right after I left. Also, another person that was there, that I was there with, was Peter Gotti, who was John Gotti's brother. And I actually, and I get sad when I think about it, I actually spent a lot of time with Peter. He was on the 5th floor when I was there, and I used to work on the 5th floor. I used to sit next to him often. I used to deal with him often. I used to take him to places he had to go often. I used to talk to him about possibly getting out. I used to try to help him do his file paperwork, for his lawyers. I used to, and I don't even feel comfortable looking at the camera right now, but yeah, man, he was my friend, man. Peter Gotti was my friend, I really liked Peter, man. Yeah, he had a good reputation in there, man. He had a lot of things wrong with him, man. It's such a foul, and I'm gonna get into this later, but it's so foul, man. He was an old man. Like really old, man. There's a lot of old men in there that are just in there suffering, man. They won't let them go. And particularly Peter, man, he he had problems with his eyes, with his knees, with his back, all type of stuff, man. All on special type of diets and everything, man. And they wouldn't just let this man go. But his death was actually, at least to me, unexpected. I don't know if the nurses knew something, if there was a time limit. He never told me anything, but I used to sit next to him every day. I didn't even know he was gonna pass away, man. I worked there one day, went back to the unit for nighttime, back to my unit for the nighttime, and I came back to work the next day, and he had died, man. Yeah, it's sad, man. It was sad for me, but his reputation in there was so good with the staff and with the nurses that the nurses were literally crying. Like they were literally in tears over his death, so yeah, he didn't make it, man. Also, another person that was in there was Mutulu Shakur, which was Tupac Shakur's dad or stepdad. I never got to see him. I also think he was in that medical SHU on the second floor. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I know you enjoy my book. It contains more than 700 similarities between the Bible and the Quran. It is easy to comprehend. It's easy to look up the topic you're interested in. All you got to do is flip to the table of contents and boom, you found it. There's more than 700 similarities in this book. It's also been proofread by an Islamic scholar. There's no other book like it, and I've made the book affordable. It's only $12.99 on Amazon. Get your copy. This medical center, it's just like every other prison. Except that it's a medical center, of course. It's full of people with all types of different conditions, and I cannot make you understand through this camera. This prison has 5 floors. It has, and then on each of these floors, there's 4 wings basically. And then they have a mental health wing, which is full of people with mental health issues. Like, and when I say mental health issues, I mean people that are gone, man, gone in the head, man. As far as what this prison was able to do, you know, they specialize in cancer treatment. So I seen a lot of my friends, a lot of Muslim brothers, you know, too. A lot of them get cured of their cancer, but then sometimes, you know, they would go in remission, and then, or sometimes it would come back, you know. But with the cancer, you know, being that they were able to help a lot of people, it's also important to know that this, man, cancer is a beast, man. I got to see so many different types of cancer while I was there, and about liver cancer, stomach cancer, colon cancer, pancreas cancer, throat cancer, lung cancer, all types of cancer, even testicle cancer. I know a Muslim brother there who was healthy as an ox from Philly. You know, his name was Yunus. He had testicle cancer, man. He used to be like, man, he said he woke up one day and his testicle was swollen, man. I've seen people that were like in the advanced care unit, which is like a intensive care unit in a hospital. I've seen people that over time, whatever illness they had, it shut their body down to where they couldn't even move, you know, where they were confined to a bed. I remember being around this one guy named Ponzo. He literally, and this is no lie, he literally could not move his body. Why is he in prison? Why is he in prison? He can only communicate by blinking his eyes. They had to work out a system to where 1 blink was yes, 2 blinks was no. He was hooked up even to a ventilator. You know, so he had a ventilator, then he had like all these things strapped to him, to his body, and he couldn't even eat. So they had Ensure, you know, feeding him through a tube. Like, you know, their Ensures are like nutritional drinks. Yeah, he eventually died too. It's some of the things I saw you wouldn't even believe in there, man. You know, like, I really wish like this thing could be exposed. This place could be really exposed to the world. And with that said, you know, I feel like I was being prepared for this place somehow in my life. You know, from my disposition to my willingness to always want to help people even before that place. But even more funny, believe it or not, I was at another medical center before this one, but this place that I was at before Butner was in Massachusetts. It was called FMC Devens. And Devens specializes, for the BOP, it specializes in dialysis treatment. But in particular, my really main experience there was I had a Muslim cellie, and his name was Issa, and he was from Virginia. So his problem was that he was on dialysis because his kidneys failed. And yeah, and believe it or not, the BOP does not care if your kidneys fail. They will keep you there. They have a whole compound full of people with failed kidneys, and then other things like lupus, you know, and that's calling. There's so many different things I learned that can cause your kidneys to fail, you know. But nonetheless, my experience with my cellie was on dialysis, and he was also diabetic, because his diabetes causes kidneys to fail. So with that said, I used to find my Muslim brother, my poor Muslim brother. I used to find him, and this brother had been locked up for like 23 years. When I was there with him, that was like the year he was on. I used to find my cellie Issa passed out on the floor, cause sometimes he couldn't control his sugar level. You know, sometimes it would get so low, and alhamdulillah, you know, all praises due to Allah. I got to do good with him too. I used to help him. I used to find him sometimes passed out sweating, and I would have to give him a soda, like, you know, to help him get back. And often it would be like his comeback would be slow. And this wasn't even my job there. I used to take it upon myself to help him, you know, and it was crazy because I would sometimes find him soaking in sweat. And when you would try to find someone passed out from low sugar like that, soaking in sweat, like, they're incoherent. It's like they didn't even know what's going on. He didn't even know what was going on. And he was just rambling, like saying random stuff, just rambling away. But yeah, nonetheless, I used to nurse him back to health, man. I would give him a soda and help him drink it until he can come back. and he wouldn't even remember what happened. He just remember passing out. That's it. But yeah, and then after this, and I just want to say, unfortunately for Issa, he all praises due to Allah, he got out, alhamdulillah, but he ended up dying right after he got out, man. And so may Allah have mercy upon him, man, rahimahullah. When I was there at Butner, after a while of me doing my job and helping people and seeing all this stuff and going through all these emotions that I was going through, seeing a lot of my friends die, Muslim brothers die, I used to wonder, why am I here? And the only thing I could think was just to participate in doing good, man, to serve some purpose, because I could have been anywhere else, but I happened to land at this place where I'm already inclined to help people. Like, it's a no-brainer, and my soul is a no-brainer. That's what I like to do. So at this prison, they have 5 floors. The 5th floor is for people with general disabilities, people that are confined to wheelchairs, and then some people are confined to an electric wheelchair because they can't even really move their body. They have to be helped by one of the workers, the inmate workers, into the chair, and then they'll just control the chair with a little knob like this. Like, I dealt with one guy like that, well, actually a couple guys like that. Some people are confined to their bed, it's outrageous. But we had some people that were so gone in their mind that they just laid in the bed with their body locked up, stiff, and they were being fed through a tube. It's almost like somehow in some sick way where inmates were being farmed at this place. And I can't think of no other reason as to why you would keep people there with these type of, particularly those type of problems that they're not even no good no more. They can't do anything no more, but they just there. They can't get up and use the bathroom, so they go to the bathroom in the bed. The nurses got to come clean it. And what's the point? It's like there has to be some benefit, because if not, it's a waste of money, so. But yeah, the 5th floor is for all types of different things, whether you were getting close to dying, because they also have a hospice on the 5th floor. So you would have the 5th floor, which is all the units. Well, they have units with these people that have these disabilities, and a variety of them. Some people even had cancer up there, but the 5th floor wasn't mainly for people with cancer. But yeah, so then on the 5th floor, aside from the regular units with people with these disabilities, they even had a hospice for the people that they knew, or they had a good estimation. And I've gone back there too, a lot of times to help people and to bring people their food. And I can only say when I would go back there, man, I would just feel sad. I would feel drained. It's like a smell. It's like, I don't even know if there was a smell, but I always imagine I could just smell death and sadness. And I even went to work with certain guys that were living back there in the hospice, and like, I can't express it, man. Like the look they have on their face, yeah, it's tough, man. It's traumatizing to me, man. I can't even express like the sadness that they would have. They would just let themselves go sometimes, man. It's a tough one, man. Why are these guys here if you can estimate that they're gonna die? Why don't you just let them go? Especially if they don't have life where it says deceased, because in prison you have a release date, and these dates can be looked up. And so when you get life, it just says deceased. Meaning you're gonna die here, meaning you're not gonna leave until you die. But when you have people that don't have life and they're gonna die, or have a good estimation that they're gonna die, and you built a whole hospice to house them, man, we used to receive lists on our computer. The computers that inmates are allowed to use, we can't get on the internet or nothing like that. It's just a basic access to an email where we can contact people on the outside, and then access to other news things that are prison news things. So we used to receive a summary of all the people that died that month. If it was May, we get a list at the end of the month, and it could be 30 to 40 people on there. I remember I was getting so sick of seeing all these people on these lists that I knew. Some of the people, like, you just read their name and you're like, man, I was just interacting with him. Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah, like, where are these bodies going, man? Where are all these people going? And it's like you never notice an emptiness in the prison. It's always filled. So somebody died, somebody coming. And also on the 5th floor, you know, you had guys that were really old, and you encountered that a lot. FMC Butner, and their age is what's making them have these disabilities or these sicknesses. And it actually gets, when I used to think about it, man, and a lot of the guys that I used to work with, you know, even guys that wasn't in the program with me, you know, we all used to talk about it, man. You know, it was a ridiculous sight to see such old men, you know, suffering like that, and they just won't be able to, they won't let them go, you know. And there's all type of laws, you know, that were passed to let people like that go. But a lot of times, you know, and I used to participate in the paperwork process, you know, helping guys that I worked with on these floors, you know, try to file paperwork to their lawyer or to inform their lawyers about their conditions, about their health, because they couldn't do it themselves. You know, we all used to do it. You know, especially when the laws about compassion and release and all the exceptions and all those things were coming about. You know, we were doing a lot of stuff for these guys, trying to help people go home. Like I said earlier, I was trying to help Peter Gotti with it. There was a lot of young guys too, middle-aged men, you know, on these floors, man, and for whatever reason, they were suffering, man. They had these disabilities, man. So that's the 5th floor, and then the 4th floor is all cancer. Like I said earlier, it's all varieties of cancer. I even seen a guy, and from what I understand, prostate cancer, if you catch it early, it's one of the easiest to beat. But somehow they didn't catch it early. This one guy that I dealt with, a Hispanic guy, and I don't know if you can see it in my face, but I got to know this guy really well, and I actually thought he was gonna beat it, and come to find out they were just a little bit too late. And I got to see, that was the first time, and that was around the time that I first got in the program, I got to see every stage of how the cancer can affect you, like, and I want to save this for later, but I got to see all of it, man. I got to see from when he was healthy to when he started to feel pain, to when he started to get tumors or bulges from the radiation or whatever it was, because I used to take him to his radiation appointments. Like, they have all this type of stuff there. And then the 2nd floor, they have the ACU, the Advanced Care Unit. I used to work in there as well. And so also about the program, you know, the program, it was cool. You know, like I said, they taught us, you know, the skills we needed to be able to help, you know, and like I said, it's like it almost felt a lot of times that we did more than the nurses. You know, and not all nurses was like this. I met a lot of nurses, you know, that I actually liked, that I admired them, you know what I mean, that I built relationships with them. The overall feeling for the nurses among the patients, the incarcerated patients, and then the inmates that worked with them, it was overall, you know, the opinion was that they were being neglected. You know, it's like a feeling that is like that because we're in prison, and it was almost like they're just there for the money. We always used to think and talk about it, you know, whether it was the patients or the workers, especially the workers, because we used to get in our feelings because we would be there helping. Like, we would shave men that we don't know, brush their teeth a lot of times, clean their rooms up, you know, and talk to them, encourage them to get out the bed, man, take care of your hygiene. A lot of these guys that were sick were super depressed, man. A lot of them didn't want to do nothing with their lives, man. They can't go home, and then a lot of times their family members have died, or they've been forgotten about. We used to build relationships with these guys and talk to these guys and try to motivate these guys. Like, man, we did so much that a lot of people would never know, man. And you learn a lot about yourself in that program, man. You know, like, I had one Muslim brother from Philly who was handicapped from the waist down, and he had a stroke, so he couldn't use one of his arms. But man, he did so much for himself, man. You know, and he was determined to take care of himself, man, and not let himself go to waste in there, like the nurses would allow you to. And that's what I mean. A lot of the guys in there, we were like candles in the darkness, man, because that place can get dark. I just want to share one experience before I talk about a lot of the guys that passed away, because so many passed away. It got to a point where it dawned on me that maybe I should write their names down, that maybe I should keep track, because it was that many. I had one Muslim brother who came there. His name was Hamza. And now he had a life sentence, you know, but he was able to get the compassionate release, you know, because of his cancer that he had. He had a brain cancer. But it was such a sad story. This is just one among all the sad stories that I have. But Hamza came there with this brain cancer, and I guess they caught it late because he didn't know he had it. And then when he found out he had it, and at this time he had been locked up for like 20 years since he was like 19. You know, they thought they were gonna catch it early, but they found out that they couldn't catch it early, and he didn't want to share that at first because he was in a wheelchair when he got there because the brain cancer had already started affecting him, you know. And he was a beautiful human, man, beautiful brother, man. All he cared about doing was worshiping. This is who all this time he did in there, these 20 years turned him into, you know. He was a beautiful brother, man. He was so nice, and he was a big, stocky brother, you know, a black brother. But he was so nice in his heart, man, and he was so genuine. Well, eventually, the cancer started to affect him, you know, day after day, week after week, to the point that the surgeries they were giving him, they were doing on him, didn't help him anymore. And so now, according to what their estimates were and the pattern of this cancer he had, it was an aggressive form of brain cancer. It's just a matter of time after a while. And so it's just another instance. I got to witness my brother, who I didn't know from a can of paint, a genuine love for him, man. And on top of that, that character, man, I really love people who have good character, man, and who are nice, man. So Hamza, the brain cancer started to just get at him. And I got to see him from being able to recite the Quran and praying in congregation and moving around, rolling around in the wheelchair fast and everything, talking with the brothers, visiting brothers, and he was on the floor. He went from being on the 4th floor to the 5th floor, to him having to go to the 5th floor because he was immobilized, if that's the right word, by the cancer. He was basically unable to really have strength to do anything. He had pain everywhere in his body, and he was ended up being confined to a bed. And then it went from being confined in a bed to his memory going, and he wouldn't remember who you were no more unless he really had to think so deep, or unless it just dawned on him, to eventually he couldn't even really eat food no more, or hold it down, or drink soda, or anything. Like, he would throw up. Every time he would throw up, and they would have to give him like a shot. And then when it was getting to that point, and I used to talk to the nurses about him, they were basically telling me, yeah, this is what they estimate, and just comfort him as much as you can. And that's what I did. And I remember him telling me one time right before he died, and I did it a couple times for him. He would be like, Muhammad, he'd be like, man, I just want to taste a cold soda. And I would tell him, man, how am I gonna give you a soda, man? You're gonna throw up. He's like, I know, man, but I just want to taste a cold soda, man. And I would give the cold soda to him, man, and he would just throw up everywhere, man. You know, he would have a little bucket, a little bin. You know, we would keep bins beside the bed for stuff like that. He would just throw up in the bin. And it wasn't too long after that he ended up passing away. But yeah, he had the ability to get out. And the sad part was that so much of his family had died that he had nowhere to go. You know, he had no residence to go. You know, he didn't have a tight-knit family like that, you know, so he had nowhere to go. So this is what he had to face, you know, and 20 years to brain cancer, to dying, you know, and all he was, man, wanted to do was just worship his Lord. All he talked about is if he got out, he would just spend the rest of his time trying to enjoy his Islamic life at the mosque, at the masjid, and do what he's read about. You know, he was a convert in prison, you know, and he just wanted to experience that. And yeah, that one really affected me, man, because I watched every stage all the way down, man, that sometimes, man, I didn't even want to go around him no more, man, because it was sad. It was sad, man. It made me want to cry right now, man, but that was my brother for real. So I got this book, And in this book, I compiled a list of names. So I'm just listing names off to show you how real this is. So the first one, I got Hamza, then I got Yahya, then I got Khan, then I got Artis, then I got Joaquin, then I got Panzo, then I got Cuban. I got some nicknames in here too because sometimes I didn't remember their name. Then I got Cuban C. Then I got another Cuban that was in ACU. The Cuban C was on the 5th floor. And then this Cuban ACU was in an advanced care unit. He was another one. Then I got another guy named Macias. Then I got a guy named Clifton. Then I got a guy named Ulysses. Then I got a guy named Spivey. Then I got a guy, I just remember where he was located. He was a Spanish guy in the Comfort Care, which was the hospice. Then I got a guy named Massey. And I remember Massey like yesterday, man. I used to talk to Massey so much. And he said he had such a good disposition that one day, I don't know what happened, man. I just went up there, man, and he was gone, man. He was dead. He just died. And his cellie told me about him. His cellie told me that, yeah, man, he just made a loud shout in the middle of the night, and then I guess he had a stroke and he died. And then I have another guy who I just got as Haitian. And I think I remember him. He was in the advanced care unit. He had everything wrong with him, man, from limbs swelling up to, man, it was all type of stuff. Then I got another guy who I just got Mark in wheelchair. Then I got another guy who, I remember him. He had cerebral palsy. Really, he had cerebral palsy and he was stuck in prison. Like, I remember him too. He literally would be spazzing out like the cerebral palsy, like he's in a wheelchair, literally. I don't understand why the BOP keeps these type of people in prison, man. Then I got another guy named Johnny. Then I got another guy named Broomguard. Then another one, Lucas. And I remember Lucas. Lucas was from New York. I do not know why he died, man. That's crazy, man. I remember everybody was shocked about him. Like, he was from New York. He just randomly died, man. Then I got another guy named Tadani, and he was, I think he was Indian. I remember him too. Then I got another guy named Vasid. Then I got another guy, I just remember him by his cellie. He was a White's cellie. Then I got another guy named Virginia. He was in Comfort Care. He was from Virginia and he was in Comfort Care. Then I got another guy named Matthews who was in ACU. Then I got another guy named DC. Then I got another guy named Srambri. Then I got another guy named Brown who was in ACU. Then I got another guy named Nino who was in ACU. Then I got another guy named Hernandez. Like, this was real life people that I got to talk to who didn't have no chance to go home, who spent all these years trying to fight their time, trying to serve their debt to society, and they can't even go home once everybody knows they're sick. And these are just the people that I can remember. Another experience I had is with a guy who had liver cancer or pancreas cancer. He was from Detroit, and he said he was just caught so off guard by this, by this cancer. He was healthy. He had a couple years left, ready to go home, and then all of a sudden, he said, I think he said his tongue turned yellow or his eyes turned yellow. And so he got checked and it turned out that he did. And he was the same thing. Like, I witnessed all the stages with him. And I remember one of the things that he used to ask me, because he said that the treatment he used to get used to leave always a bad taste in his mouth. And he would always want me to get him candy because they wouldn't let him buy candy off the commissary. And, we get commissary here too, but depending on what medical status you're on, they wouldn't let you get no commissary. But his main complaint is he was in ACU, and that was actually a common complaint over there in that unit, was that they wouldn't let them get no commissary because of their conditions. But a lot of times they could eat the stuff, but they restricted them. And it was sad for them because if you think about it, these guys are in a depending on their health, they got a lot going on. Some sweet food or some candy will make them feel better, but they wouldn't let them get none. So he used to beg me, like, man, just buy me. He had the bread too. He would look out. He would ask me to bring him some Fireballs, like candy he used to like to eat, and I would. just so he could get the taste out his mouth. And I used to have to sneak it to him too because we couldn't bring that type of stuff in there. But listen, man, I can't express how much I used to feel for them guys and when I was there with them, man. And then, overall for this medical center, there was a lot of accusations against this place too. It was such a common thing there at that facility that guys who had such medical conditions that fit under the law for like compassionate release or their behavior and conduct might have matched the standards that they, on paper, it looked like they should get it. They should get approved and be let go. But they were always getting denied all the time. And we would be steady helping them file paperwork, or they would be doing it themselves and they would be getting denied, and we wouldn't even understand why. And a lot of times they wouldn't even get the explanation as to why. It would just say denied on the paperwork. So this became a habit among a lot of us who really wanted to help, that we were helping them do these paperwork, this law work. And then sometimes the nurses would try to interfere, or they would try to stop us, or they would have an attitude with ICPs, the inmate companions that were helping the guys that worked up there. They would try to like come in between us, like stop us from helping them, or prevent us, or move us around the building and work somewhere else. I mean, I can't even understand why. You know what I mean? It's like a systematic approach to stopping people from trying to get out. Why? Like, this the only reason you could think is like you get conspiratorial in your mind, like, man, are they just trying to keep us in here? But also this facility actually made it in the news concerning the regular inmates for when COVID hit. I was there when COVID hit. I think it was 2020, 2021. When COVID hit, we weren't getting outside the prison. The guards brought COVID into the prison because all of a sudden we started to get outbreaks in the prison. I remember when I got it, it hit our unit, the regular unit of guys that were there. Like, it hit our unit all at like one night. I remember I lost my taste, my smell, and everything. And I was like, man, I had watched the news and I was like, man, I think I got COVID. I was joking about it. And then I couldn't taste coffee. I couldn't taste peanut butter. I couldn't taste anything. And then that's when the staff, I didn't even have to say anything. They came the next day and were automatically testing. And it was, everybody basically had it in my unit. You know what I mean? And like I said, they brought it to us. It was a big thought going around among us that they were getting the sick guys on the floors sicker with COVID, because it was almost like being hushed about. I remember people were dying up there too, and they weren't giving explanations as to why, because they were locked down. Like, everybody was locked down, especially the guys up there. They lived in rooms, so they were locked in the rooms. But you notice certain guys started dying. Now, we supposed to have masks on and supposed to have been tested, the staff, but people were dying. I even had a Muslim brother named Yahya who were on isolation, and he had the particular illness, the respiratory illness that made him susceptible to dying from COVID. And he died. He was perfectly fine though when we were free. But after COVID hit, he just randomly died. And they never gave an explanation to it. They just put him in a body bag, got him up out of there. The nurses ain't want to talk about it. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And then likewise, when COVID hit, the BOP put out special conditions allowing more people to get out if they had certain conditions that made them susceptible to COVID. And yet still, they were denying people. And this even made the news for Butner. There was like a class action lawsuit filed against them. And of course that got denied as well by judges. So it's kind of self-explanatory, man. I don't have to say what it is, but you already keeping people in there that are sick as dogs, that are literally on the verge of dying. You don't want to let them go. And then when COVID hit, you were still not trying to let anybody go. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even have to put nothing on it, man. This whole experience, because right after COVID hit, I ended up getting out while it was still going on, but I ended up getting out in 2021. It helped me a lot in certain areas, and then I think it messed me up in certain areas as well, like with the PTSD and the trauma and the things I'm still trying to understand to this day. I still think about, the guys that I knew that died, non-Muslims and Muslims. I still think about them, man. it don't take much for me to get into my feelings about them. You know, knowing that they have 20, 30 years, and like I knew one brother from Washington, D.C. who had like, I think it's bone marrow cancer or blood cancer, and it's incurable. His was incurable. He could just only get better overall, but it was incurable. So, you know, like them type of people, like knowing that I'm leaving them, and you know, I don't know, like unless they get released on a compassionate release or some type of exception, like they're gonna be there suffering. Like I still think about them too. You know, even other people that I know that weren't sick, that got forever and a day. You know what I mean? I still think about them too. You know, man, it's just all messed up sometimes, man. You know, when you think about that, you know what I mean? You really try to not think about those things when you get out of prison, but yeah. So overall, that medical center, man, it deserves the title of the prison of death. Man, so many people died there. So many people died there, man. You would think they could just fill a mass grave with the bodies. Like, I want all of you to ask yourselves this question and to think about it. What is the point of keeping all of those people there when it's clear that they're sick and it's possible that they might die? Or even if they might not die, like guys that are half paralyzed from the waist down. I knew one kid, you know, one kid, he was 20 years old. He was paralyzed from the neck down. He could only move his head like this. We had to feed him. Young guy got shot in the neck. What is the point? If you're complaining about taxpayers' money and all these things, you know, what's the point? A prison like that, it's known what's going on there. The body count is known by someone somewhere. It's not like nobody is tallying them. Somebody knows somewhere. Especially if you have, let's say you had 15 years and you did 10. Oh, you got 4 left because it's 85%. So you got to do three more, 3.5 more. But you got some severe form of cancer. They're not gonna let you go. Oh man, you got too much time left. How does that make sense when your cancer is killing you too? I don't know. Ask yourselves that. What's the point?